Baba Vanga calls 2026 the year of the Great Awakening, and for a handful of zodiac signs, life may never look the same again. That's the kind of sentence that makes you pause, lean in, and wonder whether the next 12 months are simply going to be more of the same, or a door finally swinging wide. According to Baba Vanga's prediction, 2026 is a crossroads. Old patterns fracture, invisible gears begin to turn, and opportunities that felt distant could arrive with an almost uncanny timing. But which signs stand to thrive when that door opens? Which will be ready to walk through? Before we dive into each sign, a quick orientation. Baba Vanga, the well-known Balkan seer referenced here as the source of these forecasts, is attributed with predictions that people interpret in many ways. What follows is a careful reading of what this forecast suggests for 2026. Not a promise, but a map of potentials. This year is painted as an era of clearing and acceleration. Seeds planted in patience suddenly find the sunlight. Debts of effort show signs of repayment. Relationships that have been on hold either heal or finally reach clarity. The language of the prediction returns again and again to gates opening, justice arriving, and inner maturity translating to external reward. Courage and readiness are the twin keys. The universe may hand you a signal, but it asks that you respond. If you want the full sign-by-sign breakdown, subscribe now so you don't miss the main reveal coming later. Stay with me. I'll walk you through the struggles that brought each sign to this threshold, the specific turning points 2026 may deliver, and the seasons to watch for when action matters most. Aries. For Aries, 2025 felt like a long hallway of attempts, starts and stops, enthusiasm colliding with reality. You burned bright, but often found the fuel uneven. According to the prediction, 2026 isn't another flare, it is a stairway upward. The turning point arrives when a sudden invitation or unexpected role shifts your trajectory from chaotic momentum to directed movement. Financially, spring may bring a tangible acceleration, an extra project, a freelance contract, or a performance bonus that validates a risk you once took. Career-wise, a promotion or a new leadership task could appear as an obvious fit, not because circumstances bend to you, but because your capacity to decide fast becomes valuable. Relationships loosen their friction as you pair initiative with listening. A romantic partnership that once felt reactive steadies into collaboration. Internally, the work of learning discipline pays off as confidence matures into strategy. The cue to watch for is sudden openings in March through May, invitations, emails, or introductions that push a door ajar. One-line takeaway: act boldly when the unexpected arrives, but temper impulse with follow-through. Taurus. Steadfast Taurus has often carried the weight of delayed recognition.
Quiet work, long hours, choices made for stability. You may have watched others get applause while your efforts stayed behind the scenes. Baba Vanga's reading suggests that 2026 is the year the ledger balances, though not necessarily as a dramatic windfall. The turning point is a restoration of justice, overdue credit, formal acknowledgement, or a legal or administrative correction that tilts things back towards you. Financial gains may arrive in measured waves rather than sudden spikes. Think steady increases in recurring income or a contract renewed at better terms. Career gains are likely to come from authority figures noticing reliability, a trusted role, increased responsibility, or the rights to intellectual property you've quietly developed. In relationships, the choice between comfort and growth will become clearer. Some Taurians will opt to preserve what feels safe, while others are presented with a chance to invest in expansion. The seasonal marker is autumn consolidation, the months when paperwork, reviews, and agreements tend to finalize. One-line takeaway: accept the return of what you patiently earned and decide whether to conserve it or reinvest for growth. Gemini. Geminis have spent recent seasons juggling ideas, brilliant starts, fragmented plans, and the restlessness of many options. According to the forecast, 2026 asks you to finish. The turning point is a singular focus, one project or one relationship that filters out the noise and becomes the center. Financially, that focus converts scattered income into a coherent stream. What once felt like small wins becomes a single, impactful source. Career-wise, the lesson is shipping, an idea that finally reaches the market, a book completed, a podcast launched. Socially, your network's chatter crystallizes into a partnership that amplifies rather than distracts. Inner growth appears as discipline. The freedom you crave is found by committing to fewer, deeper choices. The seasonal cue to watch is spring cleaning in your schedule. When you clear distractions in April and May, an opportunity could solidify. One-line takeaway: narrow your aim. Finishing one thing may unlock the rest. Cancer. For Cancer, the past has felt heavy with attachment, unfinished emotional business, connections that needed setting free, caregiving that drained more than it restored. The prediction suggests a release and a rise. 2026 brings a compassionate reordering that allows leadership to emerge from vulnerability. The turning point often looks like an outside endorsement of your stability, a job that trusts your emotional intelligence, a partner who recognizes your boundaries, or a community that honors your contribution. Financially, the gains may be less about dramatic profit and more about security, a steady contract, a savings buffer, or a position with benefits that finally match your labor.
In relationships, closure for old wounds creates space for new, healthier bonds. For some, estranged family ties may be healed or at least clarified. Internally, your sensitivity refines into emotional authority. What once felt like fragility becomes your strongest asset. Look to late spring and early summer for signals. Invitations to lead, offers that value your empathy, or a payment that affirms your worth. One-line takeaway: release the past to step into a role where your care becomes leadership. Leos, whose inner sun often burns for visibility, have faced seasons where applause didn't match the effort. According to the prediction, 2026 is when that inner light finds a stage that respects it. The turning point may be an opportunity to lead a visible initiative, a campaign, a creative showcase, or a new role where your charisma meets structure. Financially, expect recognition to translate into tangible reward, endorsements, paid speaking, increased sales, or a role that finally pays commensurate to your contribution. Career gains come from being put in charge of a team or project where your decisiveness matters. Relationships benefit when you channel your warmth into steady generosity rather than performance. The seasonal cue is summer acceleration, the months when attention and momentum align, bringing offers that compound your influence. One-line takeaway: let your confidence be matched by discipline so recognition becomes sustainable. Virgos have often been the architects behind the scenes, perfecting details that others benefit from but rarely credit you for. The prediction points to 2026 as the year your craft becomes a system that pays. The turning point is a strategic reframe. Your meticulousness is packaged as a product or method rather than just unpaid labor. Financially, this could mean monetizing a proven process, a course, a consulting framework, or an operational tweak that saves an employer money and earns you a promotion. Career-wise, the gains come through visibility of results. Higher-ups notice measurable improvements and reward them. In relationships, the demand for perfection softens into appreciation for your steadiness. Partnerships benefit from your practical care rather than criticality. Inner maturity shows up as acceptance. You stop polishing what already functions and instead scale what works. The seasonal marker tends to be autumn project closures, when the fruits of careful planning are collected and recognized. One-line takeaway: turn your precision into repeatable value, not perpetual preparation. Pause here for a moment and feel the pattern. The first 6 signs move from impulsive initiation to steady mastery, from attention to detail to emotional leadership. According to Baba Vanga's reading, many signs will find that the labor of previous years is not lost. It reappears in forms that matter. Money that arrives as structured income rather than luck, roles that reward reliability instead of spectacle, and partnerships that are finally reciprocal. If you've been nodding along, if one of these heads is your star sign, notice the recurring instructions beneath the imagery. Courage matters, but so does patience. The universe, in this prediction, prefers readiness over entitlement. Doors will open, but only those who have prepared the hallway will move through smoothly. Seasonal timing surfaces again and again. Spring for beginnings and refocus, summer for acceleration and visibility, autumn for consolidation and reward, winter for culmination and reassessment. The same beats that guided Aries and Gemini also guide Taurus and Virgo. The difference is how each sign's temperament meets the moment. Now, as we move deeper into the zodiac, expect the tones to shift. The next signs face different kinds of turning points: restoration and public vindication for some, strategy and power reclamation for others. These are the moments that often define the rest of the decade. Choices made when a gate opens will echo long after the door has closed. Are you ready to notice the signal when it comes? Scorpio. Scorpio enters 2026 carrying a ledger of hard-won scars and secret strategy. If you've been waiting for justice or a decisive reversal, the prediction suggests this could be your season of leverage. The turning point may come through a quiet maneuver, a negotiation that finally reaches terms, a legal settlement that restores standing, or a business move that turns discretion into profit. Financially, expect concentrated gains, a lump sum, a sale, or an equity event rather than slow drip income. Career shifts could look like stepping into a role that gives control over resources or systems you understand intimately. In relationships, old betrayals may be cleared, or new partnerships may form with people who match your seriousness.
Internally, your patience and capacity for deep commitment become strategic weapons. What once felt like brooding becomes a clear plan. Watch for signals in late summer into early autumn, moments when conversations that have simmered finally move to concrete agreements. One-line takeaway: use your depth strategically. Timing and discretion turn power into power. Sagittarius. Sagittarians have spent recent periods dreaming large, but sometimes without the map to build. The prediction frames 2026 as a year where vision meets architecture. You become an intentional builder of your own future. The turning point is an education of sorts, a mentor, a course, or a partnership that turns raw optimism into a repeatable method. Financially, this may lead to income that scales, a business model that lets you grow rather than trade hours for money.
Career-wise, expect opportunities that expand your platform, travel-related projects, teaching, or leadership in a field where your worldview matters. Relationships grow more supportive of your ambitions. Friends who were merely cheerleaders may become collaborators. On the inner level, luck sharpens into responsibility. You learn to measure risk with a plan. The seasonal cue is spring and early summer, when seeds of alliance planted then can begin to sprout. One-line takeaway: convert big ideas into systems that let you scale without losing your soul. Capricorn. For Capricorn, the narrative before 2026 was endurance, steady work, deferred pleasures, and the grind of building a foundation. Baba Vanga's reading suggests that 2026 is the year your ledger shows a credible balance, recognition, promotion, or a project finally completing the long arc you started. The turning point often arrives as institutional validation, a title change, a formal leadership appointment, or a successful launch that confirms years of effort. Financially, gains may be structural, raise in salary, ownership stakes, or the completion of a long-term investment that matures. Career shifts will likely be formal and lasting rather than flashy, positions that grant more authority and resources. Relationships may shift as your responsibilities align with clearer expectations. Personal life and professional life find a sustainable rhythm. Internally, patience becomes capital. The restraint you've practiced opens options you couldn't have pursued earlier. Look for winter's calm as the season of culmination. Results may feel quiet, but steady and consequential. One-line takeaway: your consistent labor pays off in institutional change. Accept the authority and steward it wisely. At this midpoint, the Zodiac story is taking shape. Some signs receive sudden openings, others see slow justice. A few are tasked to focus and finish. Throughout, Baba Vanga's vision emphasizes that nothing is handed without a response. Signals will be subtle for some: an email, a quiet nod from a supervisor, and unmistakable for others, a contract or a public announcement. Notice how the seasonal map keeps guiding when to lean in and when to consolidate. We stand now at a hinge. The remaining signs, Aquarius, Pisces, and perhaps a final group of those we name as the top thrivers, face turning points that blend vision with reality, sensitivity with structure. The stakes rise here because the patterns that appear for these signs have the potential to reshape not just one area of life, but multiple: money, career, relationships, and inner life converging in a single decisive arc. In the next stretch, we will see which signs the forecast singles out as the boldest winners, and why those cases carry cross-domain momentum. For many viewers, that reveal will answer the title question directly: who will thrive in 2026? The answer is emerging, but it hinges on choices still to be made and signals still to be heard. If the first half of this map already resonates, take a breath and look at your calendar. Are there months where you feel tension or invitation? Make a note. Readiness, according to the prediction, is the most practical thing you can cultivate. A clearer inbox, a simplified schedule, a saved contingency fund, and above all, the willingness to act when an opening arrives. The real work of prophecy isn't in waiting for it to happen, it's in preparing so you can walk through when it does. Now, with that tension humming, we move towards the signs whose breakthroughs may be the most dramatic. Keep listening for the cues that will define whether 2026 is a promising chapter or a life-changing pivot. Libra. If the years before 2026 felt like a balancing act for you, keeping peace at work, smoothing tensions at home, or deferring your own priorities to keep things steady, the prediction suggests 2026 may finally tip the scales in your favor. According to Baba Vanga's forecast, this is the season when harmony starts to have a price tag. The emotional labor you've performed quietly,
begins to translate into reciprocal value. The turning point often arrives as a negotiated settlement of sorts, not necessarily courtroom drama, but a formal recognition, a partnership contract, a raise that acknowledges the diplomacy you bring, or a collaboration whose terms finally match the boundary setting you've practiced. Financially, expect rewards that look fair rather than spectacular, increases that reflect true worth, improved compensation, better profit splits in a joint venture, or dividends from a creative collaboration you help stabilize. Career-wise, doors open to team leadership, mediating roles, or client-facing positions that need your calibrated judgment. In relationships, the prediction leans toward deeper reciprocity. Friendships that were one-sided either find new balance or fall away, making room for bonds that sustain you. Internally, Libra's growth in 2026 is about agency, learning to ask for what you deserve without fearing imbalance. The seasonal cue to watch is late spring into early summer. Invitations to negotiate, sign, or step into a public-facing role often appear then. One-line takeaway: ask for balance with clarity. The respect you earn this year could become steady currency. Thematic interlude: social currency and restored balance. Notice the thread weaving through these middle signs. Social skill becomes economic leverage. Where some signs find money through sudden offers, others convert relational capital, trust, steadiness, mediation, into reliable income or leadership roles. According to the prediction, 2026 will reward those who made investments in people, systems, and reputation long before the spotlight arrived.
The patterns repeat: spring for opportunities to propose or be invited, summer for visible momentum, autumn for agreements that make success stick. Keep asking, who in your network owes you acknowledgement? Which collaborations need formal terms? These are the small, practical questions that turn a favorable season into lasting change. Aquarius. For Aquarius, the recent years may have been filled with ideas that were admired but not monetized. Blueprints for change, communities you convened, innovations sketched on napkins. Baba Vanga's reading frames 2026 as a pivot from visionary to builder. The turning point could be unexpected funding, a pilot project that scales, or an institutional partner willing to give structure and money to your concept. Financial gains are predicted to come through systems, a platform that finally pays, an investor who sees the architecture in your chaos, or a licensing agreement that lets your idea work for you. Career-wise, you might move from the role of consultant to the role of founder or lead architect. The responsibilities increase, but so does the capacity to shape outcomes. Relationships may shift as collaborators move from free assistance to paid partnerships. People who once offered support become formal allies. Internally, the wild freedom you prize is tempered into disciplined creativity. Your genius becomes productive rather than merely inspiring. Watch for signals in late spring and into summer: pilot approvals, initial contracts, or an unexpected introduction to someone who can operationalize your vision. One-line takeaway: structure your brilliance so it can sustain you. Practical vignette for Aquarius, an illustrative example, not a prediction. Imagine an Aquarian who's been running a free online community about sustainable tech. In 2026, a university reaches out, proposing a paid partnership to develop a course. It's not a guarantee of fortune, but it converts influence into income and gives the Aquarian a platform to scale their idea. The moment is less about luck and more about readiness: an organized proposal, a clear curriculum, and a willingness to hand over some freedom in exchange for structure. Pisces. For Pisces, the years leading into 2026 may have felt like drifting between intuition and obligation, creative gifts weighed down by uncertainty, and a longing for a life that finally matches inner vision. According to Baba Vanga's forecast, 2026 offers the most powerful kind of stabilization, the kind that turns tenderness into tangible foundations. The turning point often appears as an invitation to transform a passion into a practical venture: commissions that pay on time, partnerships that respect both artistry and administration, or a professional role that uses your empathy as a core competency. Financially, gains for Pisces may begin as small but reliable streams: client retainer, a teaching gig, or royalties that compound.
Careerly, expect opportunities where your sensitivity is not a liability but an asset. Care industries, creative leadership, counseling roles, or nonprofits where emotional intelligence matters. Relationships mature as you learn to set boundaries and demand reliability. Some casual ties fall away, but closer ones deepen into mutual caretaking. Internally, the prediction speaks to the end of drifting. Purpose becomes practice. Seasonal cues point to winter's quieter months as times of consolidation. Offers made then are practical and often long-term. One-line takeaway: ground your gifts in practices that pay and treat boundaries as a form of creative discipline. Thematic interlude: when sensitivity becomes strategy. As we reach these later signs, a clear convergence appears. The qualities once dismissed as dreamy or peripheral become central to success. Emotional intelligence, reputation, and systems thinking are not mutually exclusive, they compound. According to the forecast, 2026 rewards those who can translate inner gifts into repeatable outputs, whether through a product, a service, or a role that institutionalizes value. The same seasonal map applies: spring to start, summer to accelerate, autumn to secure, winter to culminate. But the texture differs. The gains are often quieter, more structural, and more likely to compound over time rather than explode overnight. The top thrivers. The question we set out to answer returns now with urgency. Which zodiac signs will thrive in 2026? According to the pattern in Baba Vanga's prediction, every sign has its moment of gain, but a handful stand to experience multi-domain, deeply consequential shifts, the kinds of turning points that can redirect careers, stabilize finances, and reconfigure relationships all at once. Based on the breadth of predicted gains, financial, career, relational, and inner maturity, the top thrivers to watch are Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries. Let's unpack why each makes this shortlist and what signals to watch. 1. Scorpio. Why Scorpio tops the list? Scorpio's forecast repeatedly emphasizes concentrated leverage, settlements, equity events, decisive negotiations. These are one-time or limited windows that produce outsized results. If circumstances align, the right negotiation, the right buyer, the right legal resolution, a single event in late summer or early autumn could transform an entire ledger. Scorpio also benefits from internal readiness, patience, strategic secrecy, and the capacity to act when the moment is quiet but decisive. What to watch? Negotiations that switch from vague to contractual, equity offers, settlements, or the decision to sell or buy stakes in a business. How to prepare? Document your positions, organize legal and financial paperwork, and practice a negotiation posture that seeks both restoration and future opportunity. Caution: the window for decisive action may be narrow. Discretion matters more than spectacle.
2. Capricorn. Why Capricorn makes the list? Capricorns have been building long arcs, and Baba Vanga's reading suggests 2026 is when institutional validation arrives. This isn't a flash moment, it's a formalization. Titles, authority, ownership, and responsibilities that provide leverage for years. Because these gains tend to be structural, promotions, stake vesting, project completions, the effect is lasting and multiplies. What to watch? Title changes, contract renewals, completion notices from long-running investments, or formal appointments. How to prepare? Document achievements, prepare for stewardship, not just celebration, and map responsibilities to sustainable processes. Caution: with authority comes scrutiny. The gains demand consistent stewardship. 3. Aquarius. Why Aquarius is a top thriver? Aquarius is singled out by the prediction for a transformation from dreamer to builder. Where once ideas flowed without infrastructure, 2026 may bring partners, pilots, or funding that allows scaling. The cross-domain impact is real: income that grows, a career role that expands influence, and relationships that become formal collaborations. What to watch? Funded pilots, licensing agreements, university or corporate partnerships, or platform deals. How to prepare? Clarify your model, package your idea into replicable elements, and have proposals ready to share. Caution: structure will ask for compromises. Choose partnerships that preserve your core vision. 4. Pisces. Why Pisces appears on the list? Pisces stands to gain in a rounded way: creative stabilization, emotional authority, and steady income streams that respect sensitivity. The prediction suggests that when your gifts find practical containers, magazines commissioning work, institutions hiring empathetic leaders, or clients paying recurring retainers, the effect multiplies across life domains. What to watch? Retainer requests, commissions, gallery or institutional offers, or sustained programmatic roles. How to prepare? Formalize portfolios, set clear terms for work, and practice maintaining creative boundaries. Caution: protect your energy. Steady income often requires clearer limits than you're used to keeping. 5. Aries. Why Aries is included among top thrivers? Aries' gains are kinetic and catalytic. The prediction hints at opportunities that compound because action attracts further action, a leadership role that begets more responsibility, a visible win that converts to multiple offers. Aries may experience an acceleration in spring that cascades through the year. What to watch? Invitations to lead, sudden project ownership, or a visible role that matches your decisiveness. How to prepare? Have systems to sustain forward momentum, teams, project plans, and delegation strategies. Caution: impulsive wins can burn out without follow-through. Match courage with structure. Why these 5?
The selection balances types of advantage. Scorpio and Capricorn provide concentrated, structural shifts. Aquarius and Pisces offer transformation from idea or sensitivity into reproducible systems. Aries supplies catalytic momentum. Together, they represent different routes to thriving: decisive leverage, institutional validation, scalable vision, grounded creativity, and catalytic action. According to Baba Vanga's forecast, these signs are positioned to see gains that touch multiple domains: money, career, relationships, and inner growth, in ways that can reshape trajectories for years to come. But an important caveat must be repeated. The prediction frames opportunity, not certainty. Doors may open, but crossing them requires preparation, courage, and follow-through. Many other signs will also prosper in particular areas: Taurus's justice, Gemini's capacity to finish, Leo's summer stage, Libra's reciprocity, Virgo's systems, Cancer's leadership of care, and Sagittarius's scalable vision all appear in the forecast as meaningful wins. The top thrivers list answers the "which signs will thrive" question by spotlighting those with cross-domain momentum, but it does not negate the positive shifts promised for every sign. Practical readiness, turning prediction into prepared action. If 2026 may be a year of openings, what does readiness look like in practical terms? Below are non-prescriptive, cautious suggestions. Procedural habits the forecast implies will make it easier to notice and act on signals. None are financial or legal advice. They are simple readiness measures that support agency. Clean the inbox of opportunity. Set aside time weekly to triage messages that could contain openings. The prediction often flags invitations, introductions, or offers appearing as email or DMs. Organize a simple folder system: potential, follow-up, negotiate. The better you manage incoming signals, the less likely an important note gets buried. Prepare portable proposals. For those who create value, consultants, creators, or entrepreneurs, have a one-page customizable proposal or portfolio ready. When a pilot or partnership appears, you won't win on impulse alone. Preparation demonstrates seriousness. Document your wins and claims. Especially relevant for Taurus, Capricorn, and Scorpio. Keep clear records of contributions, contracts, and IP. When justice or institutional validation is on the table, being able to show evidence can speed outcomes. Build a small contingency. Not as investment advice, but as a practical buffer. A short-term emergency reserve helps you take selective risks without crisis pressure. The prediction suggests windows of opportunity that may require short-term commitments. Flexibility matters. Clarify boundaries and terms. For creative or sensitive signs, Pisces, Leo, Aquarius, practice stating terms early: scope, compensation, timelines. This transforms goodwill into sustainable work.
Practice a listening posture. According to the forecast, signals can be subtle. Set a ritual of weekly reflection. Was there an invitation you ignored? Was a conversation more than small talk? These tiny attentions become a habit of noticing. Assemble a trusted circle. Great openings often need quick advice. A small group, mentor, lawyer, accountant, peer, that you can call when a decision is near reduces hesitation and error. Do not solicit technical advice from strangers. Build relationships now. Seasonal map. When to lean in and when to consolidate. The prediction keeps returning to seasonal beats. Below is a practical, sign-agnostic roadmap for 2026 rhythms, framed as what to watch and how to respond. Spring, March to May. Initiation and refocus. Expect invitations, trial offers, and chances that test whether you can narrow your aim. Actions. Clean clutter, make final decisions on which projects to prioritize, prepare proposals. Signals. Emails offering pilots, intros from unexpected contacts, invitations to contribute publicly. Summer, June to August. Acceleration and visibility. Offers compound here, public momentum grows. Actions. Capitalize on visibility with solid systems, contracts, teams, timelines. Signals. Speaking requests, project leadership offers, partnership invitations. Autumn, September to November. Consolidation and formalization. Many deals are signed and agreements become official. Actions. Finalize paperwork, secure terms, plan for stewardship. Signals. Contract signatures, formal role appointments, equity vesting. Winter, December to February. Culmination and reassessment. Quiet wins solidify. Longer-term structures may pay out in settled income or stability. Actions. Plan for the next cycle, rest, evaluate lessons. Signals. Regular payments beginning, renewed contracts, formal endorsements. Warnings and pitfalls. What the prediction advises against. Baba Vanga's forecast, as interpreted here, carries gentle cautions that feel practical rather than mystical. Avoid fast, unvetted deals. Excitement is a useful index but not a contract. Take time to clarify terms before celebrating.
Do not confuse momentum with sustainability. A visible win can be compelling. Ensure you have systems to sustain growth rather than burn out. Beware overconfidence after one win. Restoration or a sudden payout may feel like permission to overreach. Steward gains prudently. Maintain ethical clarity. Some opportunities may ask you to compromise values for speed. The forecast favors long-term alignment over quick fixes. Protect health and relationships. As gains arrive, do not let ambition erase the supportive people and habits that made you ready in the first place. A short guide to signals. How to recognize the moment. The prediction suggests the universe will send signals. Here are a few interpreters' heuristics.
Repetition. A contact reaches out more than once, or multiple unrelated people mention a similar opportunity. This often precedes concrete offers. Specificity. Conversations shift from sometime to on this date, or for X amount. Dates and figures are turning points. Formal language. Memos, written proposals, and formal invitations often precede the actual change. Treat them with attention. Requests for documentation. If an organization asks for deliverables, credentials, or references, it often means they are serious about committing resources. Invitations to lead. An ask to manage, head, or represent a group signals trust that can be translated into authority or reward. A reader's map. What to do this quarter. A practical mini-plan. For anyone listening who wants one simple, non-prescriptive action set for the next 90 days, consider this compact readiness plan. Week 1 to 2. Clean your primary communication channels. Flag any mention of opportunities you'd like to pursue. Week 3 to 4. Create one concise offer page, a one-pager that summarizes what you do, what you need, and what you propose. Keep it editable. Week 5 to 8. Reach out to 2 people who can be advisors and ask for a 20-minute review of your offer page. Use feedback. Week 9 to 12. Identify one low-cost pilot or presentation you can offer to test demand. Keep terms clearly written and time-limited. This small cycle builds readiness without prescribing outcomes. It positions you to act if and when a signal arrives. Final synthesis. What thriving means in 2026. Thriving, according to Baba Vanga's reading, is less like an instantaneous reward and more like the meeting point of readiness and timing. For some signs, thriving appears as a bold pivot, a sale, a title, a funded pilot. For others, it looks like slow justice, steady income, recognition, or the end of a long project. Across the board, the forecast emphasizes agency. The universe may hand the cue, but the choice to walk through the door remains human. If you belong to one of the top thrivers, Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, the narrative suggests you're more likely to face multi-domain turning points that require decisive stewardship. For the rest of the zodiac, 2026 still promises substantial, meaningful wins, often in the domain your temperament is best suited to convert into something lasting. A gentle conditional blessing. And a closing note. According to Baba Vanga's prediction, 2026 could be a year where doors open and long seasons of waiting yield fruit. May you be ready to notice the signal, courageous enough to act, and prudent enough to steward what arrives. Expect opportunity, not certainty. Prepare for momentum, not entitlement. Did Baba Vanga single out your sign as a potential thriver? Tell us in the comments. What month are you watching, and what will you do if an opening arrives? Share one small readiness step you'll take this quarter. If this forecast felt useful, like the video and subscribe for a 2026 follow-up series where we'll deep dive into the top thrivers with month-by-month watch lists and live Q&A. Share this with someone whose calendar could use a closer look at the seasons ahead. Closing line. According to the prediction, 2026 may be the year of the Great Awakening, a crossroads where preparation meets timing. Keep your hallway clear, your proposals ready, and your courage steady. If a door opens, step through with both your heart and your plan.